10 years of creative and expressive blog, integrating art and technology to create again. After a decade without stepping on a stage, I wonder, what exactly is it that paralyzes us when we want to create? Why does something that used to flow naturally become impossible? What is creative block? According to Perplexity AI, creative block occurs due to a combination of physical, cerebral, and psychological factors that interfere with the ability to generate and express new ideas, whether in large projects or small tasks. This definition is interesting because it takes into consideration aspects of both our body and mind levels. Body and mind, a single interconnected system. I want to emphasize the psychological factors, although the psychological aspect is also directly related to our physical aspect. Our mood is evidently altered if we have some discomfort, like a headache or stomachache, and vice versa. If we have a bad time or are overwhelmed by a problem, this could manifest itself in the rest of our body. Once again, our head, stomach, back, or any other part where unmanaged emotion settles. We are an interconnected system of many layers, physical, psychological, and for those who believe in something beyond, spiritual. And without a doubt, when there's an imbalance in any of these areas, this will impact the others in one way or another. Encountering the block, the blank page, and the weight. What happens when we have a creative or expressive block? For example, when we sit in front of the computer and remain motionless before the blank page, while the screen's light illuminates our face. Or when we take our notebook to begin writing a story, song, or poem, but we can't start. Or perhaps when we take a brush in front of the canvas, waiting to make the first stroke, but without achieving it? Have we stopped to think about what exactly happens inside us? Do we pause for a minute to observe ourselves, to analyze what we're thinking or what part of our body feels this way or that? How is our breathing? The tension in our shoulders and hands? The beating of our heart? I, at least, don't. And I imagine the vast majority don't either. We stay there, still, perhaps trying to concentrate, to encourage ourselves to begin. But sooner rather than later, without us realizing it, a series of thoughts begin to appear that have nothing to do with our intention to create, but rather are the reflection of our fears, doubts, hyperanalysis, and a series of patterns installed within us. Like an inefficient operating system update that has been configuring our way of thinking, acting, and reacting without us realizing it. Sabotaging thoughts and the cycle of paralysis. It's at that moment where we enter a kind of loop where intrusive and invasive thoughts emerge with ideas like, I'm not good enough for this. Before creating, I need to study more. If I don't do it perfectly, better not do it at all. They'll discover I don't know as much as I seem to. What I want to do has already been done, and better. And in that state of automatic rumination, it's not surprising that we soon enter states of anxiety, sadness, anger, or self-pity, which triggers us to finally give up on even making that first stroke on the canvas, writing that first sentence of the story, or emitting the first note of that new song we want to compose. Those of us who have experienced this know that the sensation is horrible, frustrating, because you can't understand how something that approached differently could even be simple, or at least not impossible. But it becomes so difficult for you. The other extreme, too many ideas and no decision. It can also happen that from having no ideas and not knowing how to begin any creative project, you swing to the other extreme. You have so many ideas from such different fields that you want to carry them all out. But being so big and so many, once again you can't start because you don't know which to choose or where to begin. Then you feel how all those ideas you have or had and that never came to fruition sink deeper and deeper into the depths of your being. You wonder, how many ideas have I had? How many appeared in my mind? I never took note of them, and they simply vanished. You try to calm yourself, breathe, and try again. You decide to focus on one idea, one phrase, one scene, one color. But once again, there are so many ideas, so many images, and so many words that you simply can't find how to channel them and bring them to light. You wonder, what's worse, having no ideas or having so many that you can't find where to begin? Then you turn off the computer, close your notebook, put away your canvas and brush, because today won't be the day to create anything. Reflection, investigating the origin of the block. Analysis, paralysis. How many of us are in this situation right now? I write these words after having spent the entire day researching through new artificial intelligence tools, ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, and Claude, regarding the topic of creative block. It's evident that this research, these hours of reading between different topics related to neuroscience and creativity, are the irrefutable evidence of my pattern of procrastination, imposter syndrome, and analysis paralysis. According to Claude AI, analysis paralysis is a condition where excessive analysis, research, or planning prevents action. The person becomes trapped in loops of, I need to know more before I begin, using study as an unconscious way to avoid the risk of creating or deciding. The weight of the past, an expressive block. It's a behavior installed in my brain or in my operating system and deficient updates, and that manifests itself particularly in all its sad glory and majesty in the field of arts, an area in which I've had what I call a creative block, or more precisely, an expressive block, for approximately 10 years. According to Gemini AI, while a creative block usually refers to the difficulty in generating new ideas or works, expressive block encompasses a broader range of challenges. It refers to the inability or difficulty in manifesting, communicating, or releasing what already exists within you, whether ideas, emotions, skills, or talents. And this is precisely the block that has persisted in me the most over the years. From having spent many years singing mainly in choral groups and then venturing into theatrical acting, I went to not expressing myself at all formally on stage. At most, singing at home, but more out of pressure from feeling something was wrong with me for not wanting to do something I love. 10 years on autopilot, life, art, and time. And that's how 10 years passed, almost without me realizing it since the last time I was on stage, although it seemed like it wasn't long ago. Then Carlos Gardel's song comes to my mind, who says that 20 years is nothing, and it's true. Between the struggle to make a living, personal problems, a pandemic in between, and the vertiginous pace of current times, we feel we have no time for anything. We have no energy except for the essential, for physical subsistence. It's not surprising then that art, the expression of something more than computational technique or software, has taken a back seat. Yes, the years passed, and with each new year, that sensation of helplessness increased. Even realizing that I didn't want to continue like this, that I needed to go back to singing, to do something artistic, a force greater than my own will kept me inert, with a sensation of melancholy. Like someone on a boat in a river, carried by the current, simply letting themselves be carried, no longer fighting, surrendered. However, at a professional level, totally removed from the arts, I fulfilled all the obligations of the position, of course merely on autopilot, like a kind of functional alcoholic, but in my case, a functional, emotional inert. Restart attempts, reading, seeking help, and hitting rock bottom. Although, if I'm to be fair to myself, in reality, I wasn't 100% inert either. Throughout these years, I've tried to break with this creative and expressive inactivity. But my way of doing it hasn't been the most effective either. I've tried reading books, listening to podcasts, etc. But it wasn't until I hit rock bottom with my personal problems, specifically family ones, that I finally decided to put the focus back on myself. Because of course, how could I pretend to have my mind in a creative state to perform any activity of this type if my cortisol levels, given all the stress I've been subjected to for years, barely left me with just enough energy to perform at work? Putting the focus on oneself requires great physical and mental energy. Even more so when the way you've lived life has been mainly focused on others, or on others' problems. Although I recognize that sometimes I thought that this way of focusing so much on others was perhaps a covert way of not focusing on myself, of dealing with my own fears, doubts, and challenges. My art and technology, a project 7 years in gestation. I feel that having consumed so much content to understand the why of my blog is slowly beginning to bear fruit. I'm publicly taking it out of the anonymity of my notebooks and drawings through the creation of this first article. This marks the beginning of my art and technology, a project conceived and whose Gmail account I created back in 2017, which is just now timidly beginning to see the light. If I had to define my current objective, I want to remain flexible to what the future may bring. It's to generate a platform that brings together people with artistic technological interests, whether beginners or professionals who wish to use technological tools in their different artistic fields, supporting them in the creation, editing, and promotion of their works. Beyond labels, freely exploring art, technology, and other areas. Although I intend to focus on these two main lines, I'll also touch on topics from broader fields: neuroscience, psychology, physical well-being, and philosophy. I want to let myself go. I don't want to put labels or limits on myself. I understand this may seem confusing or disorganized, but I trust there will be others like me, with multiple interests in various fields, who will benefit from or be interested in my content. I hope this space will be one of a community where respectful and empathetic discussion is generated, where we can all support each other to materialize what our minds and hearts want to express to the world. Do you identify with this story of block? Maybe you identify with this, with that sensation of block. Maybe you've also felt that internal struggle between the rational and the creative. If so, this is your place. Join this community of creators who integrate art and technology not as separate disciplines, but as complementary languages of the same human conversation. Concrete actions you can take now. Comment on your experience with creative or expressive blocks. Share an idea you've had stored away for a long time. Experiment for 5 minutes creating something without judgment, just for play. Subscribe to receive content about art technology integration. Connect with other community members. A hug and see you along the way. Did you find this article useful? Share it with someone who might need it. Creativity multiplies when it's shared.